He took over at Widnes in March following the departure of Steve McCormack. He's a former England and Lancashire coach, of course. He's never been this close to silverware before. The closest he came was the 2004 Challenge Cup semi-final between Warrington and Wigan. And Dave Clark, the coach of Barrow, he was in their National League Two title-winning side in 2004, and he's been the coach since the start of the season. They love to get dressed up for this, don't they, Sean? It's a fun day out, it really is.
Well, it's a great place to come, Blackpool, for any occasion, in particular rugby league. I think now, is this the 5th year they've had it? And
you've got to have the knotted hankies, haven't you?
You've got to have everything there, but they'll enjoy this occasion. It's wonderful. The crowd help make the game, and the players, I'm sure, will rise to the occasion. So all the conditions out there certainly indicate that it could be an open, free-flowing game, which is something that I think everybody will want to see.
Yeah, the last two have been one-horse races, haven't they? But you know, if you go back a couple of years, I think I'm right in saying that Hull Kingston Rovers, they caused a huge upset at the time when they beat the overwhelming favourites, Castleford, by 18 points to 16. So upsets can happen in this.
Well, they can, and I don't think we're going to see a scoreline like last year. I mean, we don't have the difference in the two sides. I think in the championship table, I think there's only 1 point that separates these two sides. So they're very close in terms of what they've done all season. And I think Paul just said in an interview there that Barrow have beaten them twice. But of course that will count for nothing today. That's history. You learn from history, and today's completely different.
Well, out they come, and a bit of a poignant moment in many ways before this Northern Rail Cup final, because as Widnes and Barrow come out side by side, we remember the former Widnes chairman Tony Chambers, who died recently, sadly, after a short illness. Now, Tony was the man who kept the club afloat during some really difficult times, and he was the chairman last time they were in Super League. And how ironic that Widnes play Barrow today. The Barrow club will be forever associated with Tony's father-in-law, Reg Parker, a former great player with Barrow, a former league president, and he's also a former Great Britain tour manager. Reg is married 60 years later this year, and he is attending a celebration of that very fact today, and so he can't be here. But I know that Reg is watching at home as the players of Barrow now are presented to the presentation party. What a shame that Reg and Tony couldn't share the banter that would have surrounded today's final. But the Barrow players are being presented to Richard Lewis, the Executive Chairman of the Rugby Football League, to Heidi Mottram, the Managing Director of Northern Rail, to Chris Hamilton, the Oldham Chief Executive, who is the current Rugby League President, and the Minister for Sport, Mr. Jerry Sutcliffe, MP. Boiling hot day here in Blackpool, and I'm sure that the players of both sides will treat us royally to what should be a fantastic game. And the teams have been announced, and Barrow have got the former Widnes fullback Gary Broadbent, a captain and fullback. Then it's Chris Larkin, Andreas Bauer, Liam Harrison and James Nixon, Liam Finch and Darren Holt. A couple of question marks about the fitness of some of those players. Brett McDermott is in the front row with Andy Ellis and Andy Braycheck, and he and Paul Noon in the second row, well known to Paul Cullen, of course, from the days at the Warrington Wolves. Martin Osler in the second row as well, and Zeb Luisi, former Harlequins, at loose forward. And on the bench it's Chris Young, Jamie Butler, Scott Kagan and Nathan Mossop, and the coach is Dave Clark. For the Vikings, well, they're almost at full strength, and it's Gavin Dodd at fullback, Dean Gaskell, Craig Hall, who's on loan from Hull FC, Toa Coe-Love, Kevin Penny on loan from Warrington, Anthony Thackeray and James Webster. The forwards, Steve Pickersgill, another forward on loan from the Warrington Wolves, Mark Smith, the Widnes skipper and hooker, Jim Gannon, Richard Varkulis, Richard Fletcher, and Ian Morrison is the loose forward. Lee Duran, John Duffy, Tim Hartley and Ben Cavanagh on the bench for the coach of the Widnes Vikings, Paul Cullen. Well, I'm sure they're all hoping for a great game. They normally deliver, rugby league players, on big occasions and big finals. Widnes attempting to become the third team to win the Northern Rail Cup for a second occasion. They're just about ready for us, so let's go to the commentary box. Terry and Barry are alongside Bill Arthur.
Referee today, Gareth Ewer. from Whitehaven in Cumbria, 28 years of age, and this is his first Northern Rail final, but an increasingly experienced official. He's refereed in Super League. He was the National League Referee of the Year in 2007, and he could have quite a game on his hands here this late afternoon in Blackpool. Blackpool with 10 million visitors a year. Well, this weekend it's all about rugby league, and this is the culmination of a big weekend of rugby league. And adventure from the Barrow Raiders early on. They've got the breeze behind them, that open south stand at their backs, and they've kicked very early on. The kick from Darren Holt almost caught the Widnes Vikings by surprise. So is that an indication maybe of how Barrow Raiders are going to go about things today?
I think Barrow Raiders realise that they need to get away from their own red zone. They need to get away from the line. Very rarely these days do we see a tactic like that, but shows a lot of imagination, a bit of creativity as well.
There is the Widnes coach, Paul Cullen. Already there's fiery set two in the middle of the field, very early on. The players just marking the territory.
That is what you must control in the final football. You've got to control your emotions. You've got to do the things that got you to the final, and that's play rugby league. But there's no wrong sometimes with wearing your heart on your sleeve, and both of these teams are up for it.
I think it might have been the two, Mark Smith on the deck, but I think Richard Fletcher and was it Brett McDermott who were involved in that? McDermott taking exception, Fletcher then getting involved.
Well, it was the way that Brett McDermott seemed to hold him down. Fletcher's come in, he's had a little push. There's nothing really in that. There's not been a punch thrown on Brett McDermott, and it just looks a lot worse than what it actually is. But I wouldn't like to be in the middle of it, Bill.
So Gareth Hewer calling over the Barrow Raiders prop forward.
Against you, Brett. Come on, early doors. Make sure we get a grip.
And the penalty will go against Barrow, I think.
Number 12. Rich.
Gareth Hewer will also want a word with Richard Fletcher as well, despite the fact that the Barrow Raiders have been penalised.
Don't get involved.
So I suggested that Gareth Hewer might have a lot on his plate today, and he has already.
And I tell you what, Bill, there's going to be a welcoming committee for the next person, the next man in a Widnes shirt to tear this, and it's Richard Fletcher.
Well, he's brave. He was willing to stick his head in there again, Richard Fletcher, but this is a great opportunity now for the Widnes Vikings. And here's Pickersgill, right in front of those posts. Mark Smith, Ian Morrison is back in this Widnes Vikings side, and they've welcomed him back as well after a long injury absence. Dodd now, opportunity out wide for Dean Gaskell, but Gaskell into touch, and the Raiders right in front of their own supporters, coming up with some great defence there to snuff out that Vikings attack.
This is magnificent defence. Just look at that blue wall in front of Widnes. They pick up Gaskell and slam him right over the touchline. You've got to stay on the island in rugby league, but you've got committed defence like that.
Let's go, heads in.
Again, a little bit of a set to at that scrum, and Brett McDermott involved again. And Jim Gannon is opposite number this time.
I can see this kicking off again very shortly.
Well, obviously Brett McDermott's very pumped up for this one. And he's up against a pretty tough cookie in Jim Gannon. 32-year-old Jim Gannon's been around the block a few times, and I think he's going to have a word with both captains here, Gareth Hewer.
Get a grip, Brett, before something happens, all right? You need to get Brett under control.
Gary Broadbent and Mark Smith just to communicate to their players that they really need to get their playing heads on. Otherwise somebody's going to be in the bin early on here. Great support for both these sides, both selling out their allocation. Barrow and Widnes both going back to the RFL for more tickets. And the supporters have been in the town since, well, a lot of them since yesterday, making a weekend of it. And I actually saw some Widnes Viking supporters in the sea this morning. Well, again, a high shot there. And another penalty, this time it'll go, I think, in favour of the Barrow Raiders.
Widnes were in real control there, 11 metres, that's all Barrow had made, and I think it's Richard Fletcher who gets out, catches Andy Ellis with a real high shot, gets the penalty and really relieves the pressure. He's the danger man for Barrett Ellis. On that occasion, Richard Fletcher gave the penalty away, and Barrow have got now some good field position.
Well, we've yet to see either side really put an attacking move together. Well, Widnes did, came very close with Gaskell, but these two sides really sizing each other up.
Good shot.
And Andy Braychek felt that as he took that ball in for the Raiders. Now McDermott almost getting through. The tackle from Morrison. Going across the field now, and here's the ball. Liam Harrison, and a roar from the Barrow Raiders supporters as Harrison steamed onto that ball. Nice with Ellis. Ellis for Braychek again. Always available, Andy Braychek, the Welsh international. So this is the Raiders' first big opportunity of this Northern Rail Cup final. I think Brett McDermott was anticipating that ball, and he's gone without it. The knock on there. And Morrison made his presence felt with that tackle, but it's combined defence there.
Good try-line defence from both of these sides. We saw it at the other end with Liam Harrison and James Nixon, and down here with Widnes. There's a lot at stake. Big Brett McDermott, the old warhorse, he will not take a backward step for anybody.
Oh, and the punch is from there, and it touch judges on. And what did we say? Well, I think Jim Gannon could be in trouble here. I think Gannon threw the first punch there.
I don't know what's been said there for Jim Gannon to react like that.
He's still going,
something.
Gannon. And there's separate factions warring on the pitch. Well, how does Gareth Hughes and McDermott and Gannon are still at it? How does Gareth Hughes deal with this now?
And his teammate Andy Braychek's waving the finger as well. Here you see the scrum, what's gone on here? There doesn't look anything there that Brett McDermott's not through a punch. Jim Gannon's obviously reacted to something that's gone on in the scrum.
I'm going to put them both in the team in to get them under control.
Well, I think both sides could find themselves a man down here by the sound of things. Yeah, Gareth Hughes goes for the pockets, and Jim Gannon will go to the bin. And I think he's going to be joined there by his sparring partner. McDermott thinks, me? Why?
I think that is a sensible option. I think the levels and the intensity of this game, right from the off, was very, very physical. I think it just establishes the order of things. This is the natural order. Let's just take 2 points now, settle down. Brett McDermott and Jim Gannon, they are the enforcers of their team. They are trying to get the upper hand on one another. They've reached an impasse. A couple of punches have been thrown. They've made the point, and let's just settle down to rugby league. I'm sure that's what Dave Clark will be saying.
So a pause in the raucous atmosphere here, and an opportunity for the Barrow Raiders to get the first points on the board through the boot of Darren Holt, who was a major doubt for this Raiders side right up to yesterday, in actual fact. Touch and go whether he would play or whether young Scott Cagan would start for the Raiders. It's Darren Holt who's come through a fitness test and who converts that penalty goal. And the Barrow Raiders capitalise on that indiscipline and take a 2-0 lead here. And I noticed that while Darren Holt was lining up that penalty, Gareth Hughes was also having a word with Andy Braychek. I don't think those two are the only culprits out there.
No, Andy Braychek come in to help his teammate Brett McDermott. But the team that'll go on to win this game is the team that gets back to playing rugby. We've been out a few minutes into the game. There's been a fight. Both teams trying to dominate the opposite. Both players, two players now in the same bin, but who can get back to playing rugby and get back to the job in hand?
So will they calm down now? Well, ball falls off the kicking tee. The Barrow Raiders have beaten Widnes Vikings twice already this season, once in the Northern Rail Cup and emphatically in the Championship, so they know what they have to do against this side, but they're up against a Widnes Vikings side that's just come into form at the wrong time for them. 4 wins in a row for this Vikings team, and maybe Paul Cullen just beginning to stamp his mark on his new club.
Second move.
So Barrow
hold, go.
deep in their own territory, having to work this ball out of danger.
Another high shot.
Another one, and again the players looking to get involved, and Ian Morrison.
I think it was Corlove. I think it was Tor Corlove.
He's Morrison they wanted a bit of. It's Morrison who's going to get the talking to, I think.
I don't need you.
Not too much wrong with that, I don't think.
Tory Coelho. Tory.
Yeah, and Tokoe Love as well.
He's on that blind side, I couldn't
Plenty of chat from Gareth Ewer early on here. He's having to do a lot of talking.
He has. He's got a difficult job because there's a lot of adrenaline on both sides. None of the players on shore come here to make up the numbers. Kolov's, I think, brushed up off the ball. Morrison's on the ball. Tokoe Love, who has that style of tackling anyway, he's a ball and all defender, just drifts up.
Another penalty for the Barrow Raiders. Gets them up to the almost up to the halfway line. And I just wonder whether Barrow Raiders had thought, well, what's the best way to stop Widnes settling into a free-flowing pattern early on? Let's suck him into a real set too.
Absolutely, Bill, and I think when Barrow beat Widnes, what they did is they beat them up. And that's what you're seeing here, very physical, very confrontational, and taking them on, taking the game to Widnes.
But it's cost both sides a player here. Play on, says the referee, as Braycheck darted behind Darren Holt. That's the 5th tackle now. Finch puts a little grubber kick through. Gaskell finds Gavin Dodd in the middle of the field, and Dodd quickly wrapped up by Liam Harrison.
The kick chase was good though. There were 4 Barrow defenders, and you feel if there were another 1 or 2 in the way there, they could have put some real pressure on Gavin Dodd.
Pickersville going backwards for the Vikings. Gaskell now. Good Barrow defence here. And that's Widnes' 20-metre line, struggling to make a bit of progress. Morrison quickly cut down. 4 tackles gone. Good defence from the Barrow Raiders here. Thumping challenge.
Good contact and
felt
good drive.
On the last tackle, and it reaches Thackeray. Kicking into the breeze. And Nixon fields the ball. This is the danger man for this Barrow Raiders side, James Nixon. 19 tries to his name. And here's his opposite wingman, Chris Larkin. Got some pace out there, this Barrow side. It's not as though they are just a physical, hit it up the middle side. They've got some flyers.
And defensively, they're very, very strong around the middle of that part. But you've already talked about James Nixon. That is where the lethal partnership on the left-hand side with Liam Harrison, James Nixon, they've scored 27 tries between each other, and that is where the big go-to play is always going to go.
Holt went for a 40-20. The ball held up, though. The Widnes supporters thinking that Gavin Dodd was a victim of a high tackle there. And another penalty. And Braycheck, well, he's probably treading a fine line, Andy Braycheck, having been spoken to once by the official.
Now, it goes a long way, Bill, to winning the game with your kick chase, but you can't come up with daft penalties like that. You do all the hard work, you bring the ball forward, you get a real good kick chase, you control the first 2, but Andy Braycheck just lying on too long there and give the field position away. And now Widnes are attacking in Barrow's 40.
It's the Barrow Raiders who lead by 2 points to 0. Just that Darren Holt penalty so far, but already 2 players in the sin bin. Brett McDermott and Jim Gannon. And a tasty opening here. And here comes Ian Morrison on the charge. A loser here in 2006. Now Craig Hall making his last appearance on loan from Hull FC Hall. And Raiders under pressure now, but that's good defence. Great defence from Braycheck on Ian Morrison. Thackeray back on the inside to Fletcher on the charge. And the first try of the game goes to one of the characters involved in the early ferocity here. Richard Fletcher with the try, just came storming onto that ball to get his 8th try of the season. And Fletcher desperate to be on the winning side here today. Twice a loser in this final, with Castleford in 2005 and with Whitehaven in 2007. Well, he's got his side on the scoreboard.
If you give a penalty away, you've got to control the next set of 6. Andy Braycheck just holding on too long. Widnes get the penalty, they march upfield, and this is the way you come onto a ball. Richard Fletcher just runs straight and hard. There's only one winner there. You can see the determination in his face. Anthony Thackeray runs across the park, and Richard puts his hand up and says, "My ball."
Like so many of the players out there today, Richard Fletcher has got Super League experience, his with Hull and Castleford. And so is this man, Craig Hall. As I said, his final appearance for the Vikings before he returns to Hull FC. And an opportunity to add to his goal-kicking tally this season. 27 now for the season for Craig Hall, and Widnes ahead by 6 points to 2.
When Braycheck gave Widnes the field position, giving away that penalty, you just started to notice Barrow's line speed just dropped down ever so slightly. And while they weren't taking that yardage away from them, Widnes were coming forward with momentum and always coming through that line. Morrison got his arms free on a couple of tackles before that. And they were the first signs of just a little bit of a breakdown of this early tactic of being physical and aggressive.
Well, Barrow have conceded 12 tries and 68 points in the last couple of games, so they've got to tighten up defensively. They're aware of that as well. And they're up against the Widnes Vikings side that have really been turning it on in the last few weeks. And it's Widnes doing what they probably set out to do, and that's try and run this Barrow side off their feet.
Well, you're right, Bill, they've got to keep moving the big forwards around for Barrow, and they will play him up the middle channel, but last week, you're dead right, they scored 14 tries against Doncaster, really free-flowing, and them guys in your picture, they rested Ian Morrison, they rested James Webster, Jim Gannon and Dean Gaskell, so they've come into this final with a full bill of health.
Jim Gannon's having another rest already.
He had a big 2 minutes though, didn't he? Him and Brett McDermott.
Kick too strong into that corner that's just taking shape here at Bloomfield Road. It's taken them some time, but eventually it looks as though the south stand here is going to be completed. The diggers in there, construction equipment. This will be a fine venue.
Surrender!
It's already a pretty good one. Always generates a great atmosphere. Here's Gary Broadbent, another one of the seasoned campaigners whose career began at Widnes back in 1994 as he plays that ball for his side. Harrison now, but he runs into a trio of Vikings defenders who halt his progress just inside the Widnes 40. Finch now.
That's 5!
That's the 5th tackle.
Let's go.
Have they got the kicking game to unlock this Widnes defence? Well, Darren Holt goes to the air. And it's too strong, it sails over the heads. Larkin trying to keep it in, but I think if he had, he would have been quickly deposited in touch by Kevin Penny. Not a good kick.
Darren Holt is trying to find Penny with those kicks. He's trying to put it up as high as he can and give Penny the most difficult job, but sacrificed a bit of accuracy for power.
Here's Brett McDermott. Waiting for his opportunity to come back on, pacing down the sidelines. And he's back on in actual fact, and so is Jim Gannon, so both sides back to a full complement. Let's hope they stay that way, and Gannon gets the first touch, and Braycheck goes to meet him and misses him.
That's the great thing about rugby league players, there's no hiding place. You need to get back into the action.
Mark Smith with the run. Smith weaving his way through. Luisi missed with the tackle, and McDermott back in action and picking the ball up, and Gannon in there to make the tackle.
That's when Mark Smith's really dangerous, coming off a quick play of the ball, spots a gap, he really goes for it. And the same with Andy Ellis, you've got to really control the speed of this play of the ball, otherwise Mark Smith and Andy Ellis will really hurt you.
Tackle 3, please!
Gary Broadbent tackled, he lost here embarrassingly in 2007 in that Northern Rail Cup final against Widnes. 54 points to 6 that day, so we've had some big scores in the last couple of years. That ball drifting forward, or did it? Not so, say the officials. Pass from Finch to Liam Harrison was okay. And then Finch with the kick, well, they just lost their way a little bit. Kick in the end, not bad, good chase as well.
You've got to credit Barrow's outside backs, they're really getting in, they're trying to play with speed in and around the ruck, targeting Widnes' big guys. And this is where they've got to really step up the defence. That's good play.
Penny has offloaded that ball. That was
Wait!
could have been dangerous, and he is here again. The on-loan winger from Warrington, who was yesterday at the Hallowell Jones watching
Martin, hold!
his club
Hold!
go down to St Helens, and now he's in Blackpool and playing for Widnes Vikings. That's a high shot.
And that's exactly what I'm on about, Bill.
Easy tackle, get them down.
All the real hard work that they've done. Contain Widnes in their own 20, but it was a big shot on big Steve Pickersgill. And again, you've got to really be committed, but you've got to be disciplined the way you play rugby.
Mark! Fire! Big effort on the 10s.
And Widnes just beginning to dominate this game, you feel.
10 metres, we've got to hold. Go.
They're on the charge again with Fletcher,
Force!
the try scorer, the only try scorer so far here at Bloomfield Road, coming up to the end of the first quarter of the game.
Second.
As Morrison takes the tackle, another Scottish international. Webster now. Webster's passes it into Hall. Hall dragged to the ground by Andreas Bauer.
Go. Third, Guz.
Webster on the charges, Richard Varkulis. That's 4 tackles gone, and Barrow Raiders defending their own try line, and they'll concede the penalty.
Too slow.
Chris Larkin complaining that he was being held down there as he tried to extricate himself from the tackle. He couldn't because Varkulis had a hold of him. Referee wasn't sympathetic. Widnes have the penalty. Gannon.
First.
And again, using the big man, it's Lee Duran this time, who's just on the field.
Second.
And very nearly repeating Fletcher's trick there, the Irish international. Plays the ball. Thackeray now. Toa Koilov comes back in field.
Third. Gary move.
3 tackles gone. Can Barrow withstand this assault on their line? Smith fancies his chances himself. He's over, but has he got that ball down? He's held up, and Gareth Hewer had no doubt about that. That's what you call decisive refereeing.
No hesitation from Gareth Hewer. Mike Smith was held up over the line. He just gets back, plays the ball. Here's Lee Duran on the charge.
Go for 5.
That's the 5th tackle. Barrow have survived so far. Can they hold out here? Thackeray will drift the kick in, and it's well dealt with by Harrison.
Liam Harrison just stuck his foot out there, picked up that ball.
Second.
They've done so much defensive work, you're worried whether they would be able to handle it. They have, it's just can they get away from the red zone now? Some tired bodies in this Barrow outfit.
Well, they brought Chris Young on there to try and pep things up. There is Mark Smith, a winner here and a try scorer against Whitehaven in 2007, the Widnes Vikings skipper.
Move.
And that's how close he was.
Go.
It was good work. There were 2 runners running at the post. Both front rows were running at the post. Good defence again here.
Are you in with me? Let's go.
Barrow just managing to stay on the island, and that kick's gone out on the fall. It's not going well for them.
No, you've got to credit Mark Smith. He got out of the line, he put real pressure on.
Yeah, boy, his hand over.
They forced them into a kick under pressure, kicking the ball out. The ball comes back now, it's played where the kick was taken from, and that's on the 40.
Right, Paul.
Widnes have possession again, and Fletcher, and he's cut down.
Still got the ball. Wait.
This is draining defensive duty for this Barrow Raiders side, though. Just a wave after wave of Widnes Vikings attacks, and Lee Duran has got that ball away, and Gannon will take him on. And Zeb Luisi went looking for him then, a big hit by Luisi on Gannon. Webster. Gavin Dodd, ball over the top to Penny. Penny is collared though, that's 3 tackles gone in this set of 6 for the Widnes Vikings. Here is Webster. Gannon, little run around with Webster, finds Morrison. Morrison.
Tackle 4. Martin,
4 tackles gone as he's brought down. Will they go for another bulldozing run? They do, and the ball comes loose. And Gavin Dodd couldn't keep a hold of it. And they survive again.
That was good defence by Zeb Luisi. He saw Gavin Dodd running really straight and hard. And now here's a penalty. Barrow in the urgency to play the ball, Widnes defenders couldn't get set, and they've had to give away the penalty.
Cheers mixed with sighs of relief, I think, from the Barrow Raiders supporters who've made the journey here. It's only, as the crow flies, it's only 23 miles from Barrow to Blackpool, but they have to do an 80-mile journey to get here because Morecambe Bay can be a bit tricky. But here, a rare sight, their side on the attack. They've been largely defending virtually since that Darren Holt penalty. But all Widnes Vikings have got to show for it is that Richard Fletcher try. McDermott and Gannon tangling again. McDermott got to his feet and looked at Gannon and said, "Oh, it was you, was it?" 3 tackles gone. Finch, Darren Holt now. Holt drifts the kick in, Larkin a bit slow off the mark, but Kevin Penny wasn't taking any risks there.
No chances whatsoever. He knew that the Barrow players were coming on and they were putting pressure on him. That's good play by Barry. You can see the players pushing up. Paul New to the right. You've got Chris Larkin on the left of the screen. No chances whatsoever. But in the halfbacks and Finch and Holt, they really can cause you problems.
Well, Ian Morrison is on his haunches right in front of his own posts. Just back from injury, Ian Morrison.
I saw Morrison and McDermott clash in a tackle earlier. Just looks like he's jarred his shoulder. Big units, they're all going head to head. Great stuff defensively here.
Barrow 10 metres.
Not the best goal line dropout from Gavin Dodd, and it's picked up by Gary Broadbent. Broadbent eventually grounded
Wait. Come on, Lee,
by
make a 10.
Fletcher and Coe Love. Here's Young now.
Second, move. Go.
Ellis, hero of the semi-final win. Here's Paul Noon. Noon is held, cries the referee.
Hold the line. Break the foot. Wait.
Barrow Raiders just about 5 metres away from that Widnes Vikings try line. Young, drifting across the field, plays the ball. Here is Brett McDermott. McDermott trying to straighten it up. Luisi, and then Holt stabs a little kick in. They're chasing this, and again they're going to have to concede the goal line dropout. This time it was Gaskell who took the safety first option.
It's Widnes' turn now to defend and defend and defend. Barrow have earned the right to put some pressure on Barrow here. To put some pressure on Widnes, sorry.
Go, Gav. Hold inside.
Dodd looking to get a bit more distance with this one, but he is kicking into a fairly stiff breeze. Doesn't get bad distance on that one. And here's the former Penrith junior,
Move.
Chris Young.
Hold the 10 mark. Wait. Go.
So great opportunity this for the Barrow Raiders. McDermott now settled to his game after that early spat with Gannon.
Play on.
And play on, says the referee. He's got away from Craig Hall, and he does. He doesn't need any second invitation.
We are coming. Come
I
on.
think that was his game when he came out onto the pitch. I think he knew what he wanted to do, and again there were a clash.
Let's go.
Holt stretching for that one, finds Finch. Widnes Viking supporters crying out that there was a shepherd there.
You've got to get work on the 10s. Come on.
Widnes right back on their own try line now, defending for the first time in quite some time. Holt fires the ball up, and Luisi will go and take it on, and he'll get there! Zeb Luisi brushing off the Widnes Vikings challengers and having the strength to get over there, and Barrow Raiders, having weathered the storm up the other end of the field, come pounding back. They've taken advantage of the penalty. They forced 2 goal line dropouts, and eventually Zeb Luisi, who was on the end of a shellacking here last season for Doncaster, gets on the scoreboard and levels the scores.
Good play by Darren Holt. He really did build some pressure. Widnes had to they forced 2 goal line dropouts. They put them under all kinds of pressure. Look at that neat little kick. He took the ball to the line. Kevin Penny not taking any chances on Widnes' left-hand side. Then he does it to the other side, to the other winger, Dean Gaskell. No pressure. But look at the amount of players pushing up in support. Go through the line, and that is just a real big, strong effort from Zeb Luisi. He's looking for support. He pumps the pass. Craig Hall goes for the dummy, and Zeb Luisi crashes over to get Barrow back into this game.
And he handed off one of the big guys in this Widnes Viking side, Richard Varkulis, with a great deal of unease there. And Holt now, can he put his side in front again? Curls that ball in. And the Barrow Raiders back in front by 8 points to 6, and Zeb Luisi getting his 4th try of the season. And the Raiders supporters who were breathing a sigh of relief just a few moments ago as their defence survived, now celebrating the try from that man.
And Barrow deserved to be in this position. They defended the line manfully. As soon as they got down to the Widnes line, they forced Widnes to replicate the defensive efforts, and they just couldn't hold strong.
So Sebastian Luisi gets his name on the scoreboard. He was in the Doncaster side that was beaten 60 points to 0 here last season. He's got lots of motivation to get it right today, as has his teammate Andreas Bauer, who was a survivor. Morrison is down again, and he's got problems, as Ian Morrison. The physio running on quickly, but Widnes Vikings at the moment down to 12. Here's McDermott. McDermott does well to get that ball away, and Harrison. Now Harrison's got the speedster outside him, but Nixon comes back in field, looking for room there, and that's the 5th tackle. Holt now, what will he come up this time? And again, hanging that one again. Penny is the target. Again, the wind is going to take that one and drift it out of play, and it'll be a tap on the 20. And that wind really is catching that ball when it gets in the air.
You wouldn't want to be a winger on days like this. It's very breezy, very windy. When that ball's going up into the air, Kevin Penny hasn't got a Scooby-Doo where that ball's going and just decides to leave it.
Penalty against the Barrow Raiders. Offside.
Credit Ben Kavanagh for getting a real quick play of the ball for the Widnes side. You can see the Barrow defenders just can't get back, and it's too much of a temptation to stay offside and tackle Richard Fletcher. Widnes have sent on a couple of players in John Duffy and also Ben Kavanagh to try and lift the side.
Kavanagh, I think, on in place of Ian Morrison, who's obviously suffering from a knock. And it's Widnes now. With Kavanagh. Plays the ball. Here is Webster now. Webster for Craig Hall, and could this be an instant response from the Widnes Vikings? Barrow Raiders again finding themselves defending their own try line, and Gannon.
Tackle 4, Martin, move!
Good defence that time from Martin Osler with the tackle. Thackeray stepping back in field, almost finding a way through. Anthony Thackeray.
Go.
Oh, and Duffy straight on the field, straight over the tie line, and he made that look so simple. John Duffy, literally on the field, only a matter of seconds. That, if not his first touch, was either his second or his second touch, I think it was. And he's come up with a 4-pointer, and that was a real poacher's try, that was.
Well, what about that for impact? Every time a substitution gets onto the pitch, the coach always says, lift the side. And you can't lift the side better than scoring a try. But Ben Kavanagh got him into this field position with his quick play of the ball. Richard Fletcher come up with a big run, Barrow were offside, led him to that field position for that man in your screen, John Duffy, to get out. He bumps the ball, the Barrow defenders fall for it, and John Duffy gets in for the Widnes try.
John Duffy playing in his 4th Northern Rail final. That's a record, I think, for the Scottish international, and looking to make up for his 2007 experience as well, because he was a Whitehaven player that day when they were heavily beaten by his current club, the Widnes Vikings. Hall with the conversion, and Widnes Vikings regain the initiative here by 12 points to 8. John Duffy, an instant impact as Paul Cullen sent him off. And you really can't ask for more than that, Barry.
John Duffy did a great job of recognising that Jamie Butler, who was on the left side of the defensive line, being a big tall fella, didn't have the correct position. Your goal line defence, your technique teaches you to get down low so you can grab hold of the player. He was nice tall, he's 6 foot and a million, and Duffy just picks that ball up and puts it over the line.
So Widnes ahead once again, and in possession now. Here is Webster, here's Lee Duran, and several Irish internationals out there on the field. And Widnes would just like to settle down and
Move, Andy!
be allowed to play their game. But you get the impression that Barrow Raiders are not in the mood to allow them that. But Gavin Dodd weaving his way around the outside, then back in field.
And you just felt he lost his balance there. He didn't know where he was going himself when he took that ball on the outside of Liam Harrison.
Play on.
Duffy chips a little kick over the top. Broadbent across to gather that one. So Okoye Love and Thackeray with the follow-up tackle.
Hold it, Richard, wait. It's good.
And now Widnes will look to force the error here.
Second! Move! Hold. Good.
This first half hour has flown by here. We've had an eventful first 32 minutes, a couple of sim binnings, a couple of set twos.
And I think that's what Barrow turned up here to do. I think they realised that if Widnes are allowed to play their own game, the quality of personnel on shore meant that they would score tries and score tries at will. So they had to be physical, they had to be confrontational and aggressive, and they did that and it worked.
Well, it'll only get you so far though, won't it?
It will, and it's hard work, and that's why you're seeing some tired bodies. Gavin Dodd and players like Gavin Dodd with their evasiveness and...
That's it though, Bill, you're dead right there. When you go out and you try and bully your opposition, you've got to play rugby.
2 feet like I said.
You've got to earn the right to score a try, and that is by doing the little simple things like running hard, playing the ball as quick as you can for your teammates to exploit the gaps.
Let's go.
Lee Durant plays that ball and Gaskell is collared by the 6'5" frame of Jamie Butler, who just dragged him to the ground. Ned Webster puts the kick in. Hall is chasing this, so is Penny, and Penny will get the touchdown. Kevin Penny celebrating, but is it premature? Let's have a look, says Gareth Ewer, and asks video ref James Child to see whether Kevin Penny was onside.
Craig Hall points just at the bottom of your screen. He points and shows Webster where to kick. Great player that he is. Webster reacts and puts that kick in. He looks on that angle, Tez, to be onside. We're just trying to find Kevin Penny.
Well, there's Penny wide out the top of the screen there. Now then, it's an interesting angle.
Well, they're looking at the ground and they must be happy with the onside, offside. I think that's a try.
Kevin Penny, another one of the lone stars that Paul Cohen has brought to the club. He got a hat-trick last weekend in the big win against Doncaster. Is he on the score sheet in this Northern Rail Cup final? The try is awarded. And Webster landing that one on a plate for Kevin Penny to claim his 6th try of the season. He's on the outer at Warrington, but he's very, very popular with the Widnes Viking supporters after that try.
James Webster, the little general. You're dead right, Barry. Craig Hall had a little look up, he saw that the defenders were in front of him. The only thing that was going to beat this was a neat little kick. And James Webster run to the line. You run to the line, you pull up the Barrow defence, and you've got one of the fastest men in rugby league playing on the wing, Kevin Penny. You can see Craig Hall running as fast as he can, Kevin Penny running as fast as he can. And that's a good effort, and you can see he's made up with that. And is this the 2 points?
Craig Hall has missed with that conversion attempt, but the Widnes Vikings, as half-time approaches, moving into a 16-8 lead against the Barrow Raiders. Is that ominous for Barrow, the need to steady the ship here?
You keep coming back, let's come back 7. Yeah, I'll keep working with you, all right, keep talking.
Kevin Penny, glad to be involved, as I said. Not figuring at Warrington at the moment, so on loan at the Widnes Vikings.
Now Dave Clark will be sending on the message that we had real good luck. We're just getting to the kick chase and really dominating them. We've got to tighten up our defence in the middle of the park, because all Widnes are doing are playing in that middle channel with guys like Dean Gaskell coming in off his wing, and it's the next players. You can see that all the players around loitering with intent. Gavin Dodd, John Duffy again going from dummy half. They've got to get up to speed around that ruck, Barrow.
Widnes making yards with ominous ease for this Barrow Raiders side. That's the 5th tackle on the 20-metre line, and Webster again goes to air. Larkin under pressure, the ball's come down and it's been snapped up by Andreas Bauer, and they'll be glad to get away with a goal line drop out there. That could have gone horribly wrong there as Chris Larkin went up for it. It was loose for a moment.
Whenever a kick goes up in the air, you've got to make it a contest. On that occasion, Kevin Penny jumped up high, he tapped the ball back to his teammate Craig Hall, forcing the goal line dropout.
And that's the first one of the game for Widnes, Tez. It's the first time they've made Barrow repeat their defensive efforts.
So Holt, with that goal line dropout, reaches Thackeray on the halfway line. And Widnes bring it straight back at them.
Andy Brayshaw, come on. It's good.
The point that you made, Bill, was an excellent point. Barrow's tactic of being physical and being aggressive does drain you, and you're seeing tired bodies. The line speed isn't as intense as they started off.
Here's Gannon, who went toe-to-toe with Brett McDermott in those early exchanges.
2 feet set. Let's go.
Gannon plays the ball. Webster now. Webster, Hall, lovely ball. Penny, back-to-back tries for Kevin Penny. And the try is awarded. Gary Broadbent's appealing for something there, but there was nothing to appeal for. Just the admiration of that ball from Craig Hall that set up another try for Kevin Penny. In the space of 3 minutes. And that partnership, well, they will miss Craig Hall on his way back to Hull after this game. They extended his loan spell, and he's just set up that try for Penny. No wonder he's celebrating.
Gary Broadbent was appealing for the forward pass, then the neat little flick pass to score any tries. You can see a really good defensive line, but that is absolutely class. When you can get the ball, you can have it in your left hand, you take it to the line, and just as you're going down, you pull the winger in, and a neat little flip out to Kevin Penny. But it's this last pass that Gary Broadbent's going on about. He thinks that one's forward. Got a view of the referee, didn't think it was forward.
I think he's right here, Tez. Let's have another look.
Here we go.
Ooh. It's a line ball at best.
Paul, can he convert from the touchline? He's on target with that. And Widnes Vikings getting a grip on this game now with half-time approaching. 22 points to 8 they lead. And Barrow Raiders have got a big effort to come up with in the second half.
You see a lot of players in Super League use this technique. They skip towards the outside, draw in the winger or that next defender and give a nice little flick pass. And what about this? He is the most enthusiastic person I've seen in a long time.
Well, he certainly made an impact in his Super League days, Kevin Penny. He got 13 tries in 13 games when he broke into the side in 2007. Last year wasn't so productive. Oh, that was high. That was high, and the first half could end as it started. Brayshaw and Jim Gannon.
And it was Brayshaw who come running into that fight in the first couple of minutes. He hit his mate in Brett McDermott, and Brayshaw tried to be the big dominator and intimidator for this Barrow side. But on that occasion, he was you can see here.
But you've got to get them down right. We've had a good period there for 25 minutes.
Well, Jim's saying he didn't miss me. A couple of inches higher and he would have missed him.
He's still out there, Jim Gannon. So that Widnes Vikings penalty, and there's maybe just enough time for them to embarrass Barrow Raiders before the half-time hooter sounds, if they choose to do so. Maybe a little chip over the top. Webster.
I think there'll be a kick now to the earth.
There's not going to be time. Webster wanted it, but the hooter sounding, but the coach will be happy with that. A stormy start to the game, and the two sides really going toe-to-toe, not just in terms of the discipline, but also in scoring terms for maybe the first half hour in actual fact. But just in the last 10 minutes of this first half, the Widnes Vikings have got a grip on the game with those tries from Duffy and 2 from Kevin Penny, and great finishing from Penny. Jim Gannon involved in the fiery start to this game, but Widnes have come through the fire and they've made their mark so far. Barrow Raiders with lots of work to do in the second half, because at the break they trail by 22 points to 8.